Hello there everyone and welcome back to another Magic Collier stream. And tonight, guess what? We're starting yet another new series. This time we'll be building the Untamed War Beasts Wargang for Warcry. That is a lot of war in a single sentence. Yep, this will be our new building series for the time being. Again, beautiful miniatures as usual from the GW kits. And I'm going to see how well they work together piece by piece. I don't really have the instructions, I don't think so. So I will be using the quick reference sheets. I don't know if you can make anything out of those things. Either way, hopefully I will. So, how is everyone doing in this fine Thursday evening? Anything new, anything of old, anything at all, really? Me personally, I've been having a bit of a rough week. That will be followed by a bit of a rough 3 or so months. Yeah, things aren't particularly perfect. However, I am pretty motivated stream-wise, so I think that I will be able to keep myself calm and productive on that front, and hopefully that'll spill through in the other aspects of my daily. Also, I am currently working out the exact time and day to play our next Rebel game for Blood Bowl. My next opponent will be Zunk from the Andy Davo streams. And currently I think that we have penciled in Sunday at 1700 UTC. That's 8 o'clock PM local time for anyone around here. However, I still haven't heard back from him. However, since this is the time that he has suggested, hopefully it'll be good. Usually I try to avoid streaming during the weekends, but the other options were after 9 UTC, so after 2100 UTC, which puts me at about 11 PM, and that'll mean that the game will probably go out through to 1 in the morning, which isn't particularly feasible on my side, sadly. Especially in the current state of things. Yeah, just waiting for a reply and I will let everyone know. Okay, and now my app is naturally stuck. Oh yeah. Trying to keep a little bit more active, trying to do things around and have some time to focus on the hobby. OBS is saying that I am live, but I am having some small doubts on the matter. Either way, I'm also recording, so it shouldn't be an issue later on. So I'm not really, don't really know how to play Warcry. I essentially just got half of the starter box to build, and I think that we'll just have to go from there. From what I understand, it's pretty close to Kill Team, only in a fantasy setting, some alternative factions and such. And while Iron Golems are also amazing sculpts, I will work with these guys. It will be a good opportunity later on when I start painting them to experiment a bit more with flesh tones and textured leathers and pelts. It will be quite fun to do. Also, tomorrow is another concert that I have been looking forward to for a very long time, few months, and I will use this opportunity to truly get rid of the work week once I get to that point. Can't wait. Just need to survive the Friday's portion of the workday, and then it will be all uphill. Well, onwards and upwards, as they say. I've been looking through some layouts to add to the stream. Can't really put my finger on anyone in particular, although it does appear to be a good idea to apply something. Not just have these random screens all over the place. Considering each scene as its own, I don't really know how much I can tweak any of the pre-built layouts. Hey there, Pig in Space. How are you doing on this fine Thursday evening? I am just that's nice. What is he playing now? Oh, that's good to hear. Meanwhile, I'm just warming up to get started on some cutting and filing and all the good stuff. Right. So let's see if there is any logic to the chaos that is these miniatures. Thankfully, they are once again numbered, and maybe, just maybe, I can make sense of what is what. Oh, I think that game isn't particularly old. It's about just a few days. I think it happened a few days ago. It was an interesting game. I enjoyed watching it for sure. They are all bees. Okay. Ah, because they are the other set of miniatures. Fair enough. No. These are, I think, only one of the minis. This one, the leader, has 2 weapon options. One is this thing here, this spear-looking backbone kind of thing, and the blade. Maybe. Yeah. So left hand. Yeah. I think I'll be building him. Nope. Well, I mean they do, but I just got the sprues and the some universal abilities and these cards, along with the actual play cards that are representing the profiles of the dudes. So it'll take a little while. Okay, so here we go. A bit of information. Right. So this one has... Okay, so this is this. And one more. Yeah. No, I think I'll be good with these reference cards. It should work just fine, because most of the things are prepared. Yeah, so here we have... And also, I think that they are numbered, so it shouldn't be too hard. I know. I know. Righty. So who's the guy with... Okay. They are essentially 2 dudes. The Prey Taker with Fanged Axe, I think, will be the first one to build. If I could just find his right leg. Okay, well, this is a left leg. There's a right leg right there. Yeah, I think. So yeah, 14, 13, and where's 15? Where are you? Ah, there it is. That's not... Okay. Yeah. I know. Well, in this case, we're just playing with plastic minis, so hopefully nothing explodes. So let's start cutting. I think I'll start with body number 13. I'm trying to build the Prey Taker with the Fanged Axe. Hey there, jerkos! Welcome back! Nah. Yeah, well, as long as you give me something in return, I suppose. Isn't that how the deal went? Or do I need to find you at a crosswalk, at a crossroads somewhere? A bit tired, but overall still fine, still kicking around. And I'm pretty excited to get started on building these minis. How did your whatchamacallit? The Battle Royale go? Were you able to play as you thought so? Yep. Nice. Did you win? There we go. Now that's good to hear. Alrighty, let's get down into the gritty. So what do we need to shave off here? Let's take out our Exacto blade. So let's start off with the horns. Quite frankly, a pretty horrible place to connect a sprue to, but whatever. We'll clean it off just as well. Did you have good partners for the duo and team, or did you have to carry the others? Oh, sorry, I missed that. Well, have a good one, and thanks for joining. Well, that was a quick one. I really hated when they put the connections on rough detail, because cleaning it is a bit of a nightmare. And it never gets done quite right. But I suppose it could not have been avoided. Boo-hoo. See that there is a mold line running all along the horns, which is never a good thing, as previously mentioned, but going slightly. Yeah, that is an option, but you have to take the exact same size. I think in this case, it went away fairly well. The files, they tend to rough up the surrounding surface, so it's not usually the best go-to, because they are most files, even the diamond files, are somewhat rougher than you would need for the purpose of these finely detailed miniatures. For rougher and larger, like for flash and stuff like that, it's fine, but you do need to go with sanding paper over it afterwards to buff out the surface. Otherwise, it gets a bit grainy. But almost everything can be fixed with just the Exacto blade, especially if it's just fine lines like these ones. I do have the files on hand in case I need them or just want to try them out once again. But for such application, the most versatile tool remains the Exacto blade. Just slightly scraping until you don't really see any resistance. Now visually you may run into a bit of confusion, since the color of the detail might change while scraping, might get a bit lighter and stuff. It would give you an illusion that there is still something to file in. Which is why I usually go around with my finger, and if my fingernail doesn't catch anything, that means that it is in fact either flat or flat enough. I don't know if you can tell on the screen, so you can see a bit of discoloration on the top of the helmet from the scraping. However, it is in fact pretty flat. it wouldn't look bad after the priming, is what I mean. It wouldn't be like the Norse. Most of the Norse dudes and ladies, which unfortunately I did not clean up particularly well before putting paint on, which is going to haunt me. Either way, just like painting, it is just a bit of a slow and methodical process. You just need to go into the rhythm of it and have a little bit of patience, not forcing the material so that you don't take larger chunks of it. Just carefully going along and cleaning it up. Yeah, that is always the option, but that is, in fact, a form of damage control that you do after making a mistake. And since I am trying to get better at what I do, I will give my best to try and actually make it good the first time around. As there are plenty of ways to make weathering and battle damage intentionally afterwards. But yeah, as we know, and we have already discussed this while building the Goliaths, you can always call it battle damage. Well, at least if you take too much material off for the mold lines, there really is no excuse. They're just there and they stare at you. No, not yet. Is it good? Because there was a lot of talk about it, and it was a bit of a TLDR kind of thing, so I didn't really put too much attention to it. But if you have, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. As you know, comic book heroes, be it heroes or villains or anti-heroes or whatnot, will always create a ruckus or a commotion among the fan base, both on the DC side and Marvel side. Yeah, okay, that's encouraging for me to give it a go. Some people are saying that this is DC's answer to pretty much everything from Marvel's side in recent time, which is quite a heavy statement. I don't know if that can be justified with just a single movie. Is it like an origin story that will have a continuation, or is it just a one-off showing off the character and a new iteration of how he came to be? I mean, is this going to be another cinematic universe type thing? One-off, yeah. Usually, from what I've seen in different kinds of franchises, this is very much the best way to go. Because you can actually give enough time for character development, you can actually focus on separate events, and you don't need to give a blander, more superficial view of the story. So, in my personal opinion, it is the better way to do things, instead of smushing everything in. Oh, okay. The new Batman yet again. Batman is such a weird character. When you think about it, it is very, very hard to adequately get him on the big screen, especially in live action. Because I think that the character has a bit of an identity crisis, and I mean creatively. They do want him to be all dark and gothic and whatnot, at least after Frank Miller got a hold of him. But it is very hard to consider. Oh yeah, I did enjoy these movies. But again, it is trying to get a person who dresses up like a bat. Like, I understand the concept, I understand the symbolism, but still, a bat is not something that strikes real horror. Like, more of a shock factor than what he intends to be, which is a dark, brooding presence that creates anxiety and unease within his opponents. And if that wasn't enough, the entire armory that he uses is a bit on the comical side. And they've done everything they possibly can, I do give them that, to make it look serious. Like, if you take a step back and go out of the mythos that we are just so well used to, how... Yeah, exactly. Now, if he wanted to be... If they want to make him realistically intimidating, it would be just sufficient to dress him in black with the mask and just make him this unknown, mysterious, masked stranger who beats up bad guys. I mean, that's good enough. And you don't need the terminology of the armory like a Batarang, Batmobile, Bat Pants, or whatever it is, because this goes back to his original iterations that were more comical. Again, before the Dark Knight, the Dark Knight Returns, which Frank Miller did, and of course made him all gritty and rough and what all that, which then retrospectively got implemented into the whole way he appears. Because in his original state, he is much closer to what Adam West portrayed, and goofy, yeah, exactly, and mostly a detective as well. Also, even in the goofier comics, he actually does murder quite a lot of dudes, like dropping them off from buildings. He has had a rather dramatic change in overall feel over the years, and the fact that they try to retain this makes him a very weird character. And if the only reason why this doesn't resonate as weird to us is because we just are so used to the concept of the character that it doesn't bother us. But if you take a step back, if you try to analyze it a little bit more objectively, it's a very goofy character. Like, in Spider-Man's case, it kind of works, because he never has that overall dark, gritty, gothic feel that has been bestowed on Batman. So you can kind of go along with the crazy, with the goofy, with the funny, and so on. And it kind of works in that way. To a certain extent. Yeah, you could make that statement. Well, although not really. Like, Green Arrow works, technically. The Punisher works pretty much like Black Widow, and the Punisher work the best out of all superheroes, or technically kinda superheroes. But the Flash also works kinda. I mean, there are arguments to be made both ways. But the most striking to me has always been the Batman. Weirdly enough, Superman also works, if you think about it, because he is such a weird installment in the universe that his plan, his idea, his concept is to be out of place, is to seem out of place. So from that point, it does resonate well. It does function right. Judge Dredd, yeah, but you have to understand, but keep into consideration that Judge Dredd doesn't simulate contemporary days. Yeah, Luke Cage is also a good example. Also, most of the new ones, like I do consider Luke Cage to be a newer character in terms of creation. But Judge Dredd, he works in a different universe. Like he is in an alternative timeline that is also in the future, I think, still. And it is easier to build make-believe for an alternative reality than it is to something that simulates the workings of your own. Because when you simulate something that is near to you, the brain tries to go into habit. So seeing the things that it knows how to recognize. So the things that don't meld well are the things that really from 72. Whereas when you create a make-believe world, the brain tries to find something to cling onto. So what's left is what's recognized by the brain is what seems closer to. So it is easier to illustrate general concepts rather than in a real world scenario. If any of what I said just makes sense in any kind. Yeah, so here, for example, since the connection to the sprue was rougher, I will need to go with a file and then buff it out, probably with the X-Acto blade again. The tick. Yeah, the tick. I don't know. The tick, again, creating a entirely comical setting works to its advantage in terms of acceptance, let's call it. But it is a very good example, yeah. The tick is awesome. Even the live action adaptation is pretty fun. I really like the actor who plays the tick. He's also in another a sitcom called Rules of Engagement, which I also hold very dear to me. And I just really like, even in that sitcom, he did once cosplay as the Tick, which was, you know, hilarious, if you know the fact that he actually does play the Tick. Oh, Not really sure. Are you referring to the live-action adaptation of The Tick or the Rules of Engagement sitcom? Because the sitcom is a bit older, I think. Quite a bit older. Maybe 2010, 12, something along those lines. I'm not sure about the live action for The Tick. Not really sure. Not really. I don't know. I think it was older than that, but then again, not really good with dates. Yeah, so roughing out the connection, the mold connection. Now we can just buff it out using the Exacto blade. Smooth out the roughness from the file, but use the file to take away the material in a way that it wouldn't look chopped up. The actor is this big burly dude with a very deep voice, who looks kind of like your run-of-the-mill, just kind-hearted giant. You know, the guy that always has this big ass smile on his face, but is just larger than life. Quite recognizable. What was it that I watched sorta recently that made a lasting impression? I think the Netflix series Happy, which is a very surreal massacre-based series, which isn't a superhero thing, but it sort of functions and follows the same tropes. Really weird watch, but it's very well made, for the most part. I guess we're going 8-bit music today on the stream music front. Nothing wrong with that. A bit weird, but yeah, it's not particularly renowned or particularly good. As I said, I mostly watched it because I associated the actor to the character. Oh, are you talking about Happy? Yeah. Oh, it's a 2-season thing, I think. It's good to see if you haven't really got anything else to do. Okay. here's a mole line right over here on the inside of his. By the way, what are your overall impressions from yesterday's role-playing thing? Like, as a person who actually leads games, or leads live-action, live RPGs and like that. Because I've never either played RPGs live or led them, but it is kind of like how I've been imagining it to go. And from next time, I will fix the perspective in an I, as in I will refer to the character as me from next time, because that was a bit crazy going from me to we to him. I think that'll help along, and sort of try and make things sound a bit more organic and a bit less how should I say, analytical and dry. Also, after the stream, I did manage to get it running in full screen without the graphical glitches. So next time we will be looking at full screen Fallout experience. But it did require a bit of playing around with the mod to get it to work right. But it did, and I am happy, and should be better next time. I did see your comment in Facebook, so thank you for that. And yeah, it does cut out a bit weird. It's me trying to cut out some unnecessary stuff, like trim the intro music and get it right into the outro. Maybe I should work out a scene change in OBS to show some sort of an outro music or clip, something. You know, like starting a show and ending a show, like an opener and an ender. But I don't know. I do consider these things to be more along the lines of such as to give an overall feel, and that what I'm doing right now is pretty representative of what it is. Okay, so let's just give this piece another look over. I have the feeling that this may not be filed quite as well as I would have wanted it to be. I don't want to do it. Yeah, fine. There aren't way too many models on these sprues, so I think I'll just be doing probably one and a half per stream, as it will fill up quite nicely. because most of the others will be taking on very, very many series to finish up. And I don't want to really get so far behind the building streams. So I'll just take my time. I'm going to imagine that piece 14 goes into piece 13. This remains to be seen. It does indeed. Cool. I'm just gonna take a look and see if Zunk got back to me for our match. That is if Discord, yeah, Discord is a bit dead. Oh, he's playing right now, so he'll probably get back to me later. Either way, so far the schedule has been suggested for Sunday at 1700 UTC, which is about 8 PM local time. For anyone who wants to see the crippled human team face off against the also pretty beat up Gorkacidal tendencies. Yeah, the way I see it in these shorter streams, I will be focusing on the building. Not much, not by much in terms of shortness. I've been running the duration down a little bit just because I am getting a bit tired this week. And, not really up to the task of taking on a longer streams. So I'm keeping them about around the 2.25 hour mark until things get a little bit more settled in the other aspects of my daily life. The Monday and Wednesday streams should be a little bit longer. Where we can go about 2:30 to 45 hours. About. But on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'll be starting at this time. due to the fact that Rebel season is still ongoing, I won't be making a fixed schedule quite yet. But there are about 4 more weeks, including this one, I think. So this is week 10 out of 13. Which means that I might just make it for the first week of whatever season it is in CCL. So I can fix that quite nicely. Without having a gap in playing Blood Bowl. What do you guys think about the preliminary rule set for the Euro Bowl 2020? Do you think that splitting teams into, what was it, 6 tiers is good, or is it too much? My preferences in team are again in the first 2 or 3 tiers, so it doesn't really affect me all that much, but for other coaches it might be a big deal. So let me know, what are your thoughts on that matter? Hey there, Claw Palmer. On the phone again. That's alright. How you doing? I just raised the topic of the rule set for Euro Bowl and was inquiring if and how you feel about the 6 tiers of teams. Is it a good idea? Is it a bad idea? What do you think? Or of course, if you are currently doing something hobby related, good luck and have a productive hobby time. I'll just be scraping parts along and maybe gluing some of them together at the end of it. And keeping up with the overall ramblings that are going on in my mind. Mostly surrounding hobby, of course, but not in any way, shape or form entirely or explicitly limited to them. Thankfully the scraping doesn't catch too much on the mic, because it is a bit of a screechy sound and I wouldn't want to annoy you any further at this sort of late-ish part of the evening. Okay, this leg is coming out pretty well so far. in terms of a mold line removal. Again, a connection to a rougher, detailed area, which isn't ideal. So let's try to clean up without murdering the detail. I have primed all of the Goliaths and giving them a quick look over. I think I did well with the cleanup. I did invest quite a bit more time than usual in putting them together. The unsuccessful magnetizing aside, the cleaning up part is pretty decent on my behalf. But we should be having a smoother painting experience for them. Okay, so that is done, and here on the back we can see another sprue connection that needs to be taken out of the equation as quickly as possible and as smoothly as possible. Also, it isn't advised to clean up in the way that I'm currently doing it, as in shouldn't use the blade towards your thumbs because it's quite sharp. Should always be scraping outward. But I am a bit silly that way. It creates a lot of micro cuts that tend to build up on the finger, and you end up getting something like a sore thumb, as if you have hit it with something. But it does give you a bit more control for the time being. So I do make this compromise. But again, it is a personal preference, choice, and decision, and I am not endorsing anyone to do so, considering it does lead to some, although minor, still injuries. Forgot if I mentioned this yesterday, but on Saturday we'll be having our Christmas party from the office. I did mention this, didn't I? Which is a bit weird, but whatever. This year around, they haven't specified a dress code. However, they are still calling it a ball, which will probably create some rather hilarious situations, because some people will come casually clothed, some people will come out dressed for a ball, and there will be a big dissonance between everyone. I do think things like that should be mentioned, because people do put quite a bit of stock into events like this. Oh, some people do anyway. And we will probably go to another concert after that. So looking forward to a nice Friday of a concert of a band that I've been waiting for a while. And also a Saturday that will also have a party and possibly a concert to follow. Because I really do need to get my mind off of what's currently happening during the day. I think this is a good start. And just another reminder that most probably, my game with Zunk's Orcs will be taking place on Sunday at 1700 UTC or 8 PM local time. Feel free to join. I suppose he will be streaming it as well, so feel free to join there as well, or instead of. Either way is fine. Should be an interesting game, as both teams are a little bit handicapped and underpowered currently. It'll be a fun struggle. I am looking forward to this game. Also, I hear that Richard will be attending the Essen Spiel festival in Germany next week, which is also pretty great for him. Probably means he has either a new Kickstarter or has put his previous ones into regular productions, which is good to hear. Okay, so this leg looks fairly put in place now. Yeah, pieces go well together. So I think it's time to take a look at whatever his back is supposed to be. So where is his back? Is this it? It's number 15, so yeah, it makes sense for it to be the back of the menu. I will repeat myself from the previous streams for building that always use the flat side of the cutters towards the miniature to avoid taking off excess material and ensure a flat cut. Well, as flat as possible under the circumstance. Wouldn't it work better like this? Not really. Weird. Sometimes it feels comfortable, sometimes it... Turning it around, maybe? I don't know. Always having issues with this part of it. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the other pieces that will need to get assembled for this dude. So 15, 16 looks like a part of it. What's 17? This is 17. Yeah, so 17, 16, and then the base is 18, and that should be him, because there is a connection on his foot here. You can see that. This probably should go onto a specific base part, because the bases themselves are the regular bases G-Dubs provides, so there aren't any slots on them or anything. It looks good though. Looks like a Chaos Warrior. I think these would be finally converted into Chaos Warriors. Although I'm not sure that the scale fits perfectly, as in they might be a bit on the smaller size for strength 4 pieces, but still an idea. Bit of a side theme, but I'm glad to say that some new kids have joined my karate group. Well, I say our karate group. So there is interest, and there is more fresh blood joining our ranks. That does make it a bit on challenging side, because we now have several levels of adeptness, and addressing them individually is a bit tough. But it is something that I would need to get accustomed to. Probably separating them as subgroups would be a good idea for next time. Because this trial by fire that I'm currently doing may not yield the best results. In the long run. Well, actually, in the long run it will, but short term they might not feel particularly well. It's something I have to work on. For my training routine. Bit of a side note, really, just I just came back from that class and it's still fresh on my mind. don't know if anyone is interested in this sort of thing, but it is quite a significant part of my life. And I do like sharing that. This is a very interesting build for the miniature. I haven't really seen this particular approach to segmenting the different pieces of it, but it is rather well engineered, and it is using very similar connections to the Necromunda kits, which is a good thing, because I think I did praise those kits to no end while building them. They are just very well engineered to be put together, and the way that they are segmented allows for a lot of detail to be put into these pieces. And because they are built with such nice guide loops like this here thing, it makes putting them dry fitting very easy, as it puts the pieces right where they need to go on their own. Like, they just slide in place, so you don't have to slip around with the glue as you did with the old, let's say, Space Marine kits. Because while it did allow for more posability, it also made the putting them together bit a bit harder, and created more gaps between the pieces. So they are compromising posability and versatility versatility of the build for a tighter and a more streamlined build. And I don't mind that. I do like to see what the original idea for putting them together was. The only gripe I have is, as we already saw with the Goliaths, that magnetizing the bits for swapping out loadouts has been made very difficult. I'm not gonna say impossible, because there is surely someone out there who has found a way to do it, but I am simply not skilled enough to work around these specifications of the kits. There is a hard to see but very palpable mold line across the pelt from the upper part of the piece. And as it is on the upper part, it is for sure gonna be noticeable after priming, which means it'll be noticeable after painting as well. So although it seems like a small thing, it's gonna be very annoying. I'm gonna try and clean that up. I started turning on recordings of the streams a bit later than I did initiate the stream, to cut out the prolonged intro sequence of the logo, so that anyone watching on YouTube wouldn't have to always fast forward 5 minutes or so, 10 or 5 minutes, just to get to the start of the stream. Which I think is a good thing. Yeah, you see, these things go just so well together. Beautiful. I wonder if there is an optimal sequence of glowing them. I guess we'll find out. So the base is now obvious. I'm gonna keep that for last. So we have 18, 17, 16. Where is 16? It was an arm piece. Hello, where you are? There you are. Yeah, that's the arm piece. For the left hand that will be holding the axe. What are the other pieces? Let's just cut out the entirety of it. They are numbered from this side, so this is the other arm. These gorgeous bone-like axes. And then what else? What else is there? The base. Right, so that means that we have 3 more pieces to put together, to clean up, and then put the whole thing together. And the rest should be another mini altogether, which will probably be done next time. Now let's go back to our reference sheet. This one, this one. Yeah, that appears to be very much what we are doing. Yeah, I wanted to see what size base. Because there are quite a few sizes of bases. I think these are the regular, the good old 25 mils. This one is a larger. This big old 40 mil one. We have these two that are. So this is a 27, or for this to be 30. I don't know. Can't really tell by eyeing them. Yeah, so there do appear to be 2 of those. I think it should be one of these, because there are 3 of them. The biggest base appears to be for the rock tusk prowler, so this one is off. Art Eater will probably be on a larger base. I don't know. Weird. This goes well. And even the smallest. Sorry about that. And even the smallest of bases. We also have a Raptorex and a Fury. The cards will give us an idea. Of what we're looking at here. Right, so let's take a look here. What do we have to work with? Are they named? They are not. Strength 4, strength 4. Strength won't apparently be the guiding factor. But this is our guy right here. 2 out of 4 supposedly wounds, maybe. 1 out of 5. 5 is probably a point count. Oh, and so Claw Bomber, just to let you know that the cards for your Iron Golems are actually here with me. Apparently they have been put together in the same patch, so if you're looking for them, wondering where they are actually here. I will separate them and put them aside to give them to you whenever we have the chance to meet in real life. That didn't really give me an idea on the count of what the base should be, which isn't good, not really good at all. Now it should be fairly flat to the sides when you pose the miniature. So if we take the miniature, it's something I can figure out, but I think it should be the smallest bases. Yeah. Oh yeah, the cards are here, in case you're looking for them. Meanwhile, let's go back to cleaning up. So this is the axe holding arm number 1. Let's give it a good scrape. There is a mold line, of course, going over the armbands. This is probably the only thing that I think the mold engineering division at GW could work on to mitigate. I don't mind them on flat surfaces, but on rougher surfaces like these bandaged up forearms, it's kind of a nightmare. I'm always scared that I'll dig too deep or that I'll leave parts of the mold in the recesses. And going through even with the file, it kind of has a lot of potential of ruining the detail. And no matter how gentle I am, I can only imagine what a hassle it would be if these were metal instead of plastic. For anyone who hasn't cleaned metal miniatures, getting mold lines there is a fairly labor-intense project. Again, I'm trying to go as lightly as I can with the X-Acto blade and hope that repetition will build up the result I'm looking for in terms of cleaning out the mold lines. At the cost of as little of the surface detail as I can. Here along the knuckles, mold line continues. And here on the underside of the axe. Oh boy. It's nothing too bad, and it is just a part of the prep work involved in putting together any miniature. It's nothing unusual. And for some reason it feels really satisfying to do. Although the repetition of it does tend to go a bit on the anxiety of the annoying part of things. But when you hit that mold line just right, and you're able to take it off in a way that it seems that it has never been there in the first place, it's a very satisfying feeling. And of course, the mold line would run all the way through each and every one of these. teeth or spikes of the axe to make matters even more interesting. And again, this is an upward facing part of the mini, so it is important to actually clean them up fairly pedantically. So you know that is probably going to be one of the focal points. So it needs to look good. I'm still managing to keep in focus and on frame, which is unusual for me, but I will not I'll not be hating on that. The underside of the blades isn't as important as the upper one, but still, as long as I am doing this, I might as well do it right all through and through. The songs that are playing, although the main master volume is the same as it always is, it does appear that some of them have been uploaded into the system with different mixing settings. So in case any of the tunes playing is too loud or too low, please let me know so I can adjust it. I am just not listening through the same output as you guys, so I can't really judge it in real time. I have to rely on your input. This is an interesting connection here. It gives room for a little bit of wiggle in case that the rest of the connections aren't put perfectly in place. It's a nice afterthought. Okay, let's give this a bit of a scrub with ye old toothbrush. And give it a good look over once again. Naturally dropping the pace, because why wouldn't I? And yeah, still. On the back side, the mold line is still fairly noticeable. Oh, sorry about this. Okie dokie. I think that we can call this piece done. And moving on straight to the other arm. I'm gonna start with cleaning up the connection to the sprue, because it is the most noticeable problem we have. And then back to the mold lines. You can use the old teleshop guidance for applying the directions, lateral or horizontal, but never in a circle, because in this case a circular motion will dig the blade into the material, and this is not necessarily what we are aiming for. was a bit of a flat joke, but I assure you, both in my head and in my native language, it would have worked at least a little bit better. I guess the week's worth of fatigue buildup is taking its toll on my ability to think of things to talk about, for which I do apologize, and I hope to come up with some more original material in the coming days. I was just making YouTube videos. I could have had a script to go by, but it is a live show, and so I would need to think on the spot, and possibly not throw around bits and pieces of the model. Though it would probably make for an entertaining viewing. Okay. So the inside of the bicep seems to have a bit more mold line on it. Back is good. And this here in the connection piece, this will probably give distance from the other connection of the piece unless I scrape it off, and so when the time comes to glue the piece together, it will create a larger than necessary gap. So I might as well attend to it. And so all that is left is the base. But I will take a tiny bit of a break before that. Have another sip of water. I am starving as all hell. Like, all day I've eaten nothing but some crackers for a lunch at my desk at work. So I can barely wait to dig into whatever I got myself for dinner. I guess the audio program restarted itself seamlessly for whatever reason. I think I should get a cutting mat. This weird DIY thing that I'm using doesn't really work very well, and since it is textile in nature, cleaning up plastic shavings the easiest or the funnest things to do after a stream. I should get one of these larger self-regenerating, self-healing cutting mats. Might help me along. And also, since I am now using a different setup for resting my elbows, the additional length of it, the additional height of it isn't necessary. And I think I know where I can get one of these. There is a lovely arts and crafts store not very far from here that I can go to and take a good look. I think I used to see them there. But I would need a fairly larger one than the small ones that are most common. I want to cover up as much of my desk as possible. Might be useful in the long run of things. A bit stiff after the workout, but that's fine. Looking forward to getting a decent night's sleep. Finally, now that the full moon is residing in recession. For whatever reason, it actually does affect the sleep cycle. Maybe one of the reasons why I feel so partial towards the Space Wolf faction. In 40k and the Norse team in Blood Bowl. I've even built my humans and painted them with Space Wolf bits. But who doesn't like Vikings at the end of the day? I don't mean the series, although it is also a fairly good show to watch. Here in the base, I can afford to cut a little bit deeper and get a quicker, smooth finish. You can always also push a bit harder with the X-Acto knife, because it isn't the kind of detail that You're gonna paint it over and over and grime it up. Probably put some texture paint on it as well. Haven't really thought out a paint scheme to go for these guys. But painting them is a while away. So I'm not in too much of a hurry to do so. I've been getting hankering to start on the orc team, which is the project that I have been mostly anticipating for building, and it did lead my mind to the direction of the color scheme for the orcs. I was wondering if I want to have them green skinned as per classic. I think I do. Although I have seen some pretty good efforts in red skin and blue skin. But I think I'm gonna keep them green. Don't know what I wanna have for the armor plates though. To keep a good theme going for them. Because now, after the Goliaths are done, I would have already had the purple for the elves and the blue for the Norse. It wouldn't make sense to do green plates on green skin, as it'll just fade into nothingness. Yellow might be a good idea, very classic for orcs. The Bad Moons team, I think, uses yellow, which again places me in the fairly standard color palette. But yeah, now that I'm saying it out loud, I think yellow would be the way to go. For main color. And of course I will be working around putting some red on the blitzers because they are a bit faster. Just as a little nod to the 40k versions of them. But since they will be all cyborged up with moving parts and whatnot, it would make sense to include a little bit of a nudge. And I think that is that. The pieces are all cleaned up. All that is left is putting them together. For that purpose, I will be using yet another type of glue that I haven't used before. Sadly, this time around they didn't have the gel variety. So, liquid it is. It is straight out of the packaging, because keeping glue workable over the course of a long time is not the easiest thing. You've seen me many times as I use different instruments and tools to clean up the dried up gunk. Hopefully I didn't cut through the tube. And in fact I haven't. Good on me. I think this is a local brand of super glue, in case anyone outside of my immediate vicinity is watching. Let's twist it on to activate. good. So, how are we gonna go about this? I think that these are the sturdiest two bits that need to go together. And they are the easiest to dry fit off the bat. So it connects under the head and into here, so this is where I will be placing the drops of glue. The dispenser is fairly large. I'm not too crazy about that. That means it'll be easier to declog once the remains of glue dry up in the tube. I think this took well. So then I'm gonna go with the second part of the body, which is a bit more finicky to put together, I think. Oh no. Oh, okay. It actually fits so well together that I thought I had messed up the build. It will make for a bit of a risky put together of it. I stick it in quickly enough. How did I do it the first time around? What am I doing wrong here? Oh, there we go. Even if the glue did dry up a little bit before I managed to place the bit, it fits so well together. Really does need just a tiniest little bit. I'm just gonna put a little bit under here. And I hope that it'll tighten the bond. I gotta put here as well for the axe hand anyway. Right, so we have the right arm. And then we have the left arm. I think I'm gonna place the smaller arm on first. Again, just look at this. Goes together just like a dream. So any previous woes that any hobbyists may have had with putting together two-handed weapons doesn't apply anymore. And just as I say that, these are probably, oh god, yeah, they fit lovely. Just right. They do. Great. A little bit of glue here. And here. Hopefully things will go together as well as they have so far. I'm not afraid of not putting this in sub-assemblies, since the axe is fairly non-obscuring. And it'll be sorta easy to work around. Just give it a second or two to dry. Yeah, what you gonna say about that? Gorgeous mini, ain't it? And that wiggle room that I mentioned before about the last joint to put together really did come into play. Right, so I think this is the last bit to put in. And this should go right in here, yep. Let me just take a quick look about the direction. I'm not doing anything. Yeah, so this is the right direction. It's like a glove. Like a glove. For anyone not recognizing this sort of obscure reference, it is of course Ace Ventura. Alright, and this will determine if this is the proper size of base. Does he slightly stick through it? So this may be too small for him. The bigger bases, huh? What about this? Yeah, that is the proper size base. These little reference cards actually saved my life here. Question is, should I stick him to the base right away, or should I make the basing first? How much do I hurt myself by not putting him on a plinth first? I think I'll stick him on right now to make him a playable piece. And bitch and moan about not taking the time to stick it into pieces later. Because what else would I do if I don't, in fact, complain? This is, however, pretty thin glue, which also has its merits. I would have loved to have used it for the Goliath faces. And here we are. Dude number 1 of the Untamed beasts is now put together, and he is quite the handsome fellow, if I do say so myself. Hitting it like that, I just hope to get as much of the glue back as possible, but it does in fact just keep going out, so that is a failed attempt on my part. Right, let's give it another look through now that it is all put together and see if something strikes us as not cleaned up mold-wise. He's fairly clean, I think. Maybe just a little bit on the axe. Here's an idea, maybe putting the miniature together first, as I have. And starting to clean the mold lines that are actually visible might save some time unless, if you're not going for a pedantic build. Just a little side note. Yeah, he looks pretty fine. And the gaps in the segmentation, with the exception of this one right here, that will probably be covered up by the primer. This one here, it doesn't hurt because it is a different detail that seems to be put to it, so it doesn't create a striking dissonance of completeness. Here behind is also looking pretty fine, as is the helmet and the pelt. So I don't think that there is need for any gap filling here. Again, very well thought out engineering for the model build. And with that being said, I think I will call it a night. And to my little USB vacuum cleaner and just clean up after the end of the stream. Of course, I'm not going to subject you to the sounds of the vacuum cleaner. Yeah, so here it is. Dude number 1 has been built and cleaned up. And we are right on cue as well. So again, that'll be it from me for tonight. I wish you all a very pleasant rest of your evening. Keep doing what you love, keep loving what you do. I will be back on maybe Sunday to play the next round of Rebel Blood Bowl. If that doesn't happen, it'll probably be on Monday. Until then, though, I have been Bachacolio, signing out and wishing you a lovely evening. Bye, guys!